Welcome to the Table Network podcast. This is episode number 3. Excited to be here today with one of my favorite people, biggest heart and biggest brain, Justin McCullough with Rocket Leap. Justin, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here. You guys are awesome.
You truly are one of my favorite people. Excited to have this conversation today. To kick us off, before we deep dive into you and what you're doing, we actually have a question that's left over from the last episode. And the last episode guest, so they tailored this question just for you. From Monica McKitterick at Impact Family Wellness, she wants to know, how does Justin define success?
Oh, wow. Coming out with a good one right away. I have been blessed with a great spiritual mentor, a guy named Dennis Powell. And one of the things that Dennis often talks about is like, what do you call the good life? What is the good life for you? And so success, we have a lot of definitions of success. I think as normal people, we have a definition at home. We have a definition at work, probably have a definition for ourselves. But I actually come back to my 4 words all the time, which is love, people, create value. And so those are always really strong signals of what success looks like for me. I know I'm succeeding, I'm winning when it looks like I'm loving people and I'm creating value. But really specifically, I think that so much of this has to do with feeling like joy, peace, the actual fruit of the spirit, that sort of, peace that transcends all things going on. And in that regard, like right now, I'm in a season of not feeling very successful because I'm not experiencing a lot of that kind of joy and peace in my life, if that makes sense, right? Like would I, from the sidelines, give myself a not passing grade on success? Like, I think so. I think I'm being successful as most of us would define it. But the way I define it, and with that kind of definition of, do I feel like I'm at peace and feeling joy and all that? I would say not right now. I'm in a season of busyness. I have a lot of things going on multiple fronts, building a business and things like that. So, but practically speaking, if I wasn't kind of holding to my own standards, I think others and myself would easily say, oh yeah, I'm succeeding. I'm hitting all these marks. But yeah, I think on a regular day-to-day basis, I see success as loving people, creating value, and experiencing joy and peace in my life.
That's good. No, and I love that because it transcends, right? Whether you're at home or at work, you want to love people and create value. And so that's a good anchor statement. I also think you hit on the complexity of what it is to just be human. Outwardly, I might present one way, and inwardly might be totally bankrupt or distraught. So there's
that's so true, Zach. Yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is like, aren't we our own toughest critic? Like, I think that's the other part is like, I'm just so hard on myself, and if I probably give myself a break, I'd probably, be doing myself a favor.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's jump in. If at the Table Network, who is Justin? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about your story and the birth of Rocket Leap.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So yeah, Justin McCullough, I am the CEO and founder of Rocket Leap. Started Rocket Leap a few years ago in 2023. I've been blessed with an opportunity over the last 30 years to really do a lot of amazing growth initiatives. I started out in technology in the 90s, and my very first company was a technology company. I thought I was building websites, and what wound up happening was I ended up building an e-commerce platform. So if you're familiar with like Shopify and BigCommerce and Magento and some of those platforms, I was doing that all the way back in the 90s. And as it happens, I wound up selling my company back in 2005 to another competitor to Shopify. And in fact, we made it to the top 10 of about 900 e-commerce products. They wound up hiring me back after a few years, and I was their COO. We got acquired by Capital One. And inside Capital One, I did some amazing things, rolling out about 7 technology products with Capital One over about a 3.5-year period. And that got me really just fully integrated between having done startups all the way to Fortune 500s. And I came out of Capital One in 2015 or 16, and Hurricane Harvey hit. And so about the time I was leaving Capital One is when Hurricane Harvey hit in Southeast Texas, which is where I lived. And that put 3.5 feet of water in our house and gave me the clean slate to kind of decide what me and the family were going to do next. And so at that time, my kids were both young, and we moved to Austin, which got me here. And I was working I made a shift into smart buildings and IoT because I had a strong tech background. And then that got me in commercial real estate and smart buildings and really some fun stuff. Wound up working for another big Fortune 500 company. And I decided in 23, I was like, I really want to get back into my own entrepreneurial game again. And at that point, I'd mentored a whole bunch of people. I put a lot of things kind of on the shelf that I wanted to do for kind of helping leaders. And I figured, now's a good time for me to try this again. My oldest son had graduated high school. My youngest son is in high school. And I was like, let's take the leap. And so no pun intended. So Rocket Leap was born out of this kind of long journey in a lot of kind of highs and lows and wins. And now what I work on is a multitude of things really around providing strategic growth for my clients. And these are typically between $2 and $20 million companies. And I take a lot of that corporate expertise and make it really translatable and easy and impactful for smaller organizations to kind of benefit from that expertise. And then I'm also building unique software for coaches and consultants and other leaders to use like I do to drive growth strategy. So almost everything I work on is around how do we drive growth in our business. And so that's where clients primarily use me as fractional strategy and growth.
I love it. So I had forgotten, and this is just personal now, pause the podcast, how we originally connected. You're from Orange, Texas.
Yeah.
And I spent my first anniversary mucking houses in Houston and Orange after Harvey.
There you go.
The hardest work I've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah. Not for the faint of heart.
Okay. Thinking about just that diverse experience across all these different companies, what are the things that then now transcend and you carry into Rocket Leap? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So there's several things, sometimes you kind of don't realize what you really know in your like instincts and intuition. So you have to teach it and really explain things to others. And because of my role, I really come in alongside CEOs and COOs in the C-suite, right? And so what happens a lot of times is not only do I get the privilege of learning their business and working with them, I also have the in the trenches opportunity to train them firsthand as if I would with a mentor or another person in my own team. And so what that's done for me is really helped me see, to your point, some transcendent things around strategy. I have a framework that is just absolutely super, super effective called VIM, Vision, Intention, and Means. And so I get to teach that framework all the time. And I've been doing VIM for 30 years before I actually was able to label it as VIM. And then about 15 years ago, I picked it up out of a great book by Dallas Willard. And he was describing it in a spiritual context. And I was like, man, this is really, really powerful. And, it's kind of praying on it. And I just felt like I'm sort of sent to really show how vision, intention, and means works in the workplace and the marketplace. So that's one that seems to transcend everything. I kind of call it like the formula for success. It's a universal formula. It always works. Once you have vision, once you have intention, once you have means, and you put all three together, it is the formula of success. Anytime you're missing one or two of those three things, it's either going to fail completely or it's going to grind and grind. So that's an example of something that I've been able to deploy in the companies that I was a leader in, but also in these situations where I'm helping my clients. Because once we have that framework, we can apply it in all kinds of situations. So that's one that transcends. Another one that I talk a lot about is what is good strategy. Everybody has a different definition of good strategy. And so I define good strategy as our ability to prioritize our limited resources around what's valued and valuable so that we can create leverage for the future we desire most. So I kind of see this as like four corners of a square, right? Limited resources, valued and valuable, create leverage for the future we desire most. And these are universal patterns that work in whether you're in a startup or you're trying to release software, or you're trying to do a service company, or even in the Fortune 500 companies. We have to go through all these pieces. So that always works. And then something I'm super passionate about is high performing teams that are high trust and communicate and collaborate well. I think the tapping into the collective genius of a team is so much more effective than trying to be the only one person in the room who has all the answers. And so I typically bring us back to, what does the team know? What can we do as a team? Because once we get everybody aligned, we're always going to produce so much better results as an aligned team working on the same thing, moving the same direction. So those are the things that I think transcend really well. But the heartbeat of it is, we've got to have good communication, and we've got a desire to drive results. And I see a lot of times what happens is people get stuck, and instead of at some point that tenacity, that grit kind of drops and it turns into fatigue. And then we kind of I kind of want results, but I also want to break, And so a lot of times I can get brought into those situations where people just feel like they've been banging against that ceiling for a long time, and they're not sure if what they want is a break or if they want a catalyst. And then I come in and convince them why a catalyst is a good idea.
You know what I think? Okay, so there's two things I love about you, Justin. One, first of all, because I'm going to go back to even the very beginning, your willingness to be so vulnerable is amazing. To just jump on the podcast, be like, hey, right now I'm sitting in a season where I don't feel successful. And I think that you truly just represent bleeding your heart everywhere you go, because I think that's the way Jesus called us to live, is to love first, right? Love people. So including ourselves and being willing to do that. But the second thing is, man, you have a system for literally everything. And I just find it so fascinating. Because the one that I wanted to ask you about is your 6 sources of stress, which I'm assuming obviously one factor to all of this stress would be communication. But of these 6 sources of stress that you see, what would you say would be the biggest 2, and how do you go in and help with that?
Yeah. Well, so simple question, maybe not the simplest of answers. So I do have a kind of a system for everything. And I see a lot of times in boxes. I don't know why my head works this way, but so I see this sort of three columns by 3 rows. And it's me, we, all of us across the columns. And then it's people, operations, and strategy across the rows. And so you can maybe see 9 boxes there. And when we're in the me space, right, we're really, really focused on what we're doing. I call this the individual contributor zone, right? This is where you're I have my expertise and I'm great at this stuff. Then we have the we space, which is all about the team. How do we make great things happen together? And then the all of us is the entire organization, right? And then when we plot that against people, operations, and strategy, we get to see a lot of color in how these things work together. So this whole one box occupies in my mind sort of the heartbeat of any organization. And so it's I'm always looking and I'm listening. I'm man, that sounds like me stuff, or that sounds like we stuff, or that sounds like all of us stuff, or that's people stuff, or that's operation stuff, strategy stuff. So all of our sources of stress, they come out of this box. And I know that's 9 things I just plotted out, but it's one box. It's holding space, because we have to have all those little pieces working together. So if you then turn that, and follow me guys, if you turn, and I'm just a geek about this, but if you turn that into a Rubik's Cube, now you can see all those things have different colors. And I think in our heart of hearts, we really want to see the business Rubik's Cube all solid on all colors, right? The red side is red, green side is green. We want that same thing at home and with our family, but the reality of it is, I think we're on this infinite quest to keep turning our Rubik's Cubes in all these domains, because by the time we get one side figured, we're so excited about something else, another side scrambled, because we're on this constant motion to just do more, improve. Sometimes do more means do less, right? Slow down, but we're always kind of twisting and turning. So I think it's a big source of stress is whenever you're not able to make those boxes work for you and how you define generating and creating results. So this is outcome stuff. This is all the check the box performance stuff, all the things we get trapped in when we want to put more trophies in our cabinet, when we want to get more things done, when we want to get, more revenues, whatever. And then I think that reveals the inverse of that is we have such a strong desire to do purposeful things. And when we find that we're not doing purposeful work and we feel like we're just in busy mode, we feel like maybe we're just doing work that's beneath us, or it's not the greatest utilization of our skills or impact zones or whatever, that stuff then turns internal, because that's on a different scorecard. It just doesn't feel the same as all those check boxes. So I think we get a lot of stress in those those two zones. And to me, I'll define a lot of that as execution drag. And we just get a lot of drag in, strategy and teamwork and our execution. So those are the things that really pop out to me as like, how do we think about where we're, moving into a plus zone or we're moving into a negative zone? And that always causes stress.
Yeah.
I'm a visual learner, so that was epic for me. Thank you. If nobody else gets it, don't worry. I'm pumped because that was beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then I'm reading into it way too far. So in the marketplace parable with this Rubik's Cube, I don't know how to do a Rubik's Cube, but if I take the stickers off and I put them back on in the proper place, I have solved it. So what does that mean for me as a leader? I don't know.
Zach, I think that what that tells me is you're a maximizer. You want to optimize. You want to find the fastest path to a result. And you know what success looks like because you know those things are supposed to be all on the right sides. And you're looking for an efficient way to get there. Hopefully the best efficient way to get there, right?
I'll take that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Innovation, outside the box, outside of the cube thinking. Here's the challenge though. We have to do this with people. And so inevitably it's slow and it comes with drag. I have a question. When we look at what companies or organizations or even individually, things that we track, do you think that we're tracking the right metrics? Do you think there's something bigger that we should be looking at either in life or as an organization?
Yeah, I think we should track all kinds of things. So long as they don't become what we're like, they can't define us, but they should propel us, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go back to the me, we, all of us. Whenever I'm working with clients and in past companies I've run, I kind of want to develop success measures in every one of those zones. How would I define success in the me space, where it's just about me and what I'm trying to accomplish? How would I define success in the we space? How do I know we're succeeding as a team, and then all of us? And so a lot of times when we talk about OKRs or our big initiatives having a key metric, or if you're like an EOS guy and you like EOS and Gino Wickman's book, like what's our one number? I think that we have to be really clear on not superficial metrics because it's so easy to find a metric, a dashboard metric. We have to find the things that are actual, like the one domino. Tim Ferriss has that concept. What's the one domino? If I tip this one domino over, everything else will naturally fall into place. I think that really takes a special kind of thoughtfulness. And if you do it in those three zones of me, we, and all of us, you're going to have outsized results because a lot of times it shows you what I call as a hidden metric. It shows you the hidden success metric. And so for me, the reason why I love people create value is a top line mantra that I always talk about was because I discovered it was my hidden metric. It was the thing that was really rallying my heart all the time. But man, as a senior leader walking around saying, my metric is how many people can I love today and how much value can I create? It just doesn't seem right. But what I realized was that was what was motivating me in all my calls, all my meetings, all my partner meetings. Everything I was doing was coming back to this same core place of I want to show up loving, and I want to show that when that comes to people that I'm a people person. And if you know my strengths, my actual Gallup strengths, my top 10 strengths would not align. They don't look like that's what I should look like, but because I'm a Christ follower and because I really believe that matters, I do these things that kind of override my sort of natural strengths because I think loving people is a better way, and so that's one of my hidden metrics though. Love people, create value. And I definitely think we should be tracking to metrics so long as they don't become what you're all about. The metric can't be your everything.
Yeah. Just that level of self-awareness or self-clarity, knowing that you can show up in any room or any situation and do just that, love people and create value. You can show up with a deeper level of engagement and purpose. I would imagine if we could help our employees have that same level of clarity, they would show up differently in the workplace also. How does clarity help to create capacity in an organization?
I love that. That's such a great question. So first off, confusion slows everything down. Clarity speeds everything up. So if you're bogged down, and I'm talking to you right now, listener, because I know something in your life is stuck right now. And if it's confusing and it's unclear to you, then that thing is going to bog you down, wear you out. And it is so powerful when you get clarity, because clarity isn't just an idea. It's not just a concept. It's actionable. And so to me, whenever I'm working through this concept of where does clarity come from, clarity is it's a movement, right? We know we can move forward because of clarity. It's not an idea, it's an action. And so the question you're asking around how do we make sense of clarity? Gosh, I kind of forgot how you phrased it. It was so good. You got me excited for a second. But the way we bring clarity into our work, though, and our workforce specifically, is we look for the things that are holding them back. So I use 4 questions to try to prime my team and get them to be like diagnosing where is this issue, because a great leader asks great questions, right? A great leader doesn't have all the answers. They ask great questions. And so the 4 things I ask my folks is what's working right now, what's not working right now, what are the biggest blockers and challenges that you're facing, and what's most important. And if you just ask those 4 questions, you're going to start going in the direction of clarity. And then through that process of just these 4 questions, now we can understand what's able to help speed us up if we put time and attention towards it, and what it is that's ultimately hindering us or holding us back. And it's always in this kind of not working space. And we can ask ourselves, why is that the thing that's not working? Or how is this an expectation? I thought it was working. Now I'm learning I had a misunderstanding, or whatever else. And so those kinds of things drive communication clarity, team clarity, priorities, what we should clarify as our priorities, and then ultimately where it is that we're going to put all of our daily action, because our daily action is what, action and time translates into real value. What we act on and with our time turns into real value, hopefully exponential value.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say, being on the receiving end, being able to spend some time with you and having you walk me through these steps and these questions, and probably in moments of crisis, like a big vision guy, I have a lot of ideas. What you did was help me get clarity on what the most important next thing was, put it on paper so that it's real. Then that gave me a language to go and talk to other people and get other people involved, whether it was my team or partners. And so it created capacity, a shared language to help everything start moving forward. So
that's right. Yeah. And that was really fun work. So I don't know if the audience understands, but yeah, we've done some work together, and you were great at that, Zach. You should consider more things on your plate, beyond what you're doing. Right? Do you not have enough going on already, Zach?
A couple things.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, final thoughts as we kind of wrap up our time. I almost want to go personally. I just hearing about Justin's intentionality in his personal life.
Well, so, okay, I'm at least going to go with this. This is not necessarily like a question, but it's just been in my gut this whole time. So I usually am really good at just trusting my gut that I'm supposed to say this. For me, it's personally my most favorite book in the entire Bible. But Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, for everything there is a time. Mm-hmm. Like there's a time to dance, there's a time to mourn, there's a time to rest, there's a time to work, there's a time to, kill, there's a time to save, right? All these type of things. That's not the right scripture, but that's just what came, right? But something like that. But like, I don't know. I think like where I guess also I want to give encouragement, but also maybe see what comes up for you on the personal front with this is like in this time of like not feeling successful, but also like knowing like and how loving you've been this entire time on this and how like much value you're still creating. Like, I feel like there's also sometimes like whether we want to use the Christianese of it being pruning or if it's just because like for everything, there's a season. And like, I think that growth is also what helps us stay reliant in our relationship with God. That's also then going to make that joy, that peace, and those fruits of the Spirit that much more enjoyable once we endure that time. So again, not really a question, but just something that like, I swear I've been listening this whole time, but like Ecclesiastes was the only thing that was like, beaming in my brain this whole time. So however you want to take that.
I love that. Thank you for that. And I really think I've been surprised how few people talk about the seasons of their life. For whatever reason, it's not really a common part of our everyday language. When we connect up with people, we might talk about, music we like and movies we've watched or our favorite coffee right now. But for whatever reason, seasons of life isn't one of them. We might talk about how difficult it is to be a parent or, what's going on at the job. But what I love about Ecclesiastes is the sense of bookends, right? There's something that's happening right now. You're between these two bookends. And, then of course you're gonna roll into the next phase or the next season. I heard somebody say at one point, if you're not reinventing yourself every 10 years, then you're not really living. And that's a really challenging thought, right? Because a lot of times we underestimate what we can do in a decade, and we overestimate what we can do in a year, right? I'm throwing all the cliches and stuff out right now, but I think that what we can do in these seasons is really powerful, and self-awareness of the season we're in, and especially our team, like the people that work with us, the seasons they're in, is so important, because we can't really have humility and empathy and show up as a supporting, a loving leader if we have no awareness of the season of our peers and our teammates and things like that. So we can do a lot whenever we reconcile the season people are in. So thank you for sharing that.
I was going to say, can I challenge that even though a little
Please.
bit too, because going back to like the communication part, and like, I know you took it back like professional, but if somebody's not actually willing to sit and acknowledge this season they're in personally, like if their personal life is crumbling at some point, that's going to bleed over professionally. So like, yes, as a team, you want to check in and see how they're doing. But like, I know, because these are the majority of the people I work with, is that work is their drug of choice. That's their outlet to run from the season that they're embracing personally. And so it's like, I think it's also important to like, not have just that conversation with other people to see what season they're in, but genuinely get a chance to process the season you're in.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think for most people, that personal accountability, to me, it's journaling. You got to be able to journal. You got to be able to write your own thoughts down. And I can't remember what some author said, I write to think. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I verbally process a lot, but whenever I sit down and try to write what I'm thinking, I will write something really different than I would verbalize in front of somebody, even though they might be equally vulnerable. I find that writing process is a really strong way of like bringing what's in your head out and making it physical, and then being able to see it. And so I agree. Like, if you're not journaling, that's a great way to do it. If you need to be honest with yourself about the season you're in.
On that, I had a mentor challenge me to this, and I've only done it like twice, because the first time was like a nightmare because it was just getting out of my own head with it. But they challenged you to write with your non-dominant hand when you journal, because now you have to go even slower, but you're also engaging the opposite side of your brain that you're used to thinking with. And then like, yeah, because then like the first part, I was like perfectionist mode, like I can't even read my writing. I feel like I don't know how to write what is happening. But the second time it was cool because it forced me to slow down even more when I was writing, to like make sense of my thoughts. Cause it's like, hey, this is going to take me a while. I need to make sure that like what I'm writing is legitimate.
Right. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
I hope that right after this, we all go try that. Somebody is going to find that journal of my chicken scratch and me writing with my left hands thousands of years down the road. And they're going to be like, what was wrong with this guy?
That'll be your most golden writings they find.
Well, just to kind of bookend this conversation, a word of encouragement and a challenge to every leader listening. If you're killing it right now and you have this idea that that's your identity and this is forever, everything has its season. And if you're not killing it and you're stressed out and you're wondering what's next, just a word of encouragement that everything has its season. And I found myself guilty in both of those camps. So, Justin, want to end this episode with you being able to pose a question to start off our next episode. Do you have something you'd like to ask our next guest?
Man, I wish I knew who the next guest was like Monica did. Let's say,
what if it could be Bradley?
Okay.
Which also thinking of Bradley while you think, like, there's a time to dance as a Baptist. I think we skipped over that verse, but
I have it. It's what is the thing you need to slow down and do that you know you haven't done, but you should?
It's a good question. All right. Well, we'll let the audience ponder that, and then we'll ask it to kick off the next episode. Justin, thank you for being on. Hey, how do we get connected to you and what you're doing?
Well, I'd love to see you connect with me on LinkedIn because I appreciate seeing my professionals on LinkedIn. You can visit me at rocketleap.co, and I'm happy to connect with you on any of those things. And if you're in the Austin area, I'd love to have coffee with you. So let's reach out and connect. It'd be great for coffee.